Yes.
So you haven't deleted your account, have you?
No, I'm still on Twitter, but I will, based on this recent episode, I will use it differently.
I am fascinated by people and their struggles with social media, with like detaching from it, reattaching from it, getting addicted to it. I mean, I know so many people that will look at their Twitter at like 1 o'clock in the morning before they go to bed, and something pisses them off, and then they can't sleep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's really common.
I was not. I don't consider myself someone who had a real pathology with it. I mean, I have, I don't know, 6,000 tweets or 7,000 tweets over the course of many years. So I was not tweeting that much. I was not even looking that much. I was fairly disengaged, and I've never used Facebook I just used Facebook as kind of a publishing channel. I never engaged with comments. But I was looking enough, and it was, I mean, one, it was clearly making me a worse person. I mean, I was reacting to stuff that I didn't need to react to, and it was amplifying certain criticisms and voices which need not have been amplified. And in this last case, it just turned it created a huge kind of explosion in my life. I was in the middle of a vacation, which I basically torpedoed because of what I saw on Twitter. I mean, it was like the perfect infomercial for why you don't want to be engaged with social media.
You torpedoed your vacation how?
Well, so I'm in the middle of like the first vacation I've taken with my family in a very long time. It was at least a year, and
wow.
And we're on Hawaii, and just like I'm supposed to put everything down to be the best father and husband I can be, right? And that was my intention. That's what was happening. It happened for a good solid 24 hours. and then I pick up my phone and I see that Reza Aslan and Glenn Greenwald and Ezra Klein had all attacked me in the space of an hour.
Oh,
right?
no.
And so this goes out to millions of people.
And is this over what Joe was asking about the Charles Murray thing?
Yes.
Yeah, well, the truth is I can't even see I didn't look at what Greenwald had done. He was circulating somebody's video about me, how I'm a racist in that video. Reza Aslan blocks me, so I can't even see if he attacks me by name, but he blocks me, so I can't even see what his export. Yeah. But but I just saw the aftermath of that. You know, lots of stuff. You know, lots of notifications coming to me with both of us tagged, and then Ezra published this. I suppose I should back up, however painfully, to describe what happened here. But so I had Charles Murray on my podcast a year ago, and Charles Murray is this social scientist who published The Bell Curve back in the 90s, which it was a book about IQ and success in Western societies like our own. And it's a book where he worries a lot about the cognitive stratification of society. We have a society that is selecting more and more for a narrow band of talents that is fairly well captured by what we call IQ. And it's a kind of winner-take-all situation where people are really, 500 years ago, if you had a very high IQ and you're just pushing a plow next to your neighbor, you had no real advantage. But now you can start a hedge fund or you can start a software company, and we're seeing this real shocking disparity in good fortune, really. So he wrote this book. It had a chapter on race, which talked about the disparities in racial groups.
The statistically observed disparities.
Right.
Yeah.
And the claim about the source of those disparities was by even the standards of the time, but certainly the standards of today, an incredibly tepid, mealy-mouthed, just hand-waving. It was not this, here comes the Third Reich declaration of white supremacy. It was undoubtedly there are environmental and genetic reasons for this, and we don't understand them. It was just like to think that it's one or the other. We're not in a position to know what the mix is of influences now, and that is virtually any honest scientist's take on the matter, and certainly today. I mean, it's only become more so, but that went off like a nuclear bomb. I mean, that was such a. I mean, it's the most. And at the time, I never read the book. I just thought this had to be just racist.
And of course,
poison.
Charles Murray would be vilified for for that observation.
And he's been vilified ever since, and ever since, I've ignored him.
Wasn't he deplatformed and assaulted recently?
Yeah, so that's what happened. So he went to Middlebury to give a talk, 20 some odd years, 25 years after he wrote this book.
Oh, by the way, he's also listed by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And so that's what contributed to the deplatforming and the violent protest against him at Middlebury.
What's crazy is the whole thing is a propaganda for the superiority of the Asian race, and everyone's missing that.
That's the flip side of it.
They're all talking about white supremacy, and it says the Asians are actually the ones who...
far and above. I mean, that's basically what his book proved. And, they're suing Harvard now. There's a group of Asian students that are suing Harvard because they're discriminated against, because they're required to have higher scores, because they're assumed to be smarter. So the standards for Asian students entering into Harvard is higher than white people.
Wow.
Yes, well, Asian privilege. It's a big problem. Your grandfather was working on the railroads in California as an indentured servant, and all that privilege trickled down.
There's obviously a lot of factors that lead to IQ, to high IQ, but to ignore what those are, to ignore it completely, to just bury your head in the sand.
In the name of ideology, of course.
Yes, exactly. Only ideology. And this idea that you cannot look at statistics, you cannot look at facts. And